I have now started the meeting. Welcome, everyone. We will be starting in a minute. Just for you to be aware, you're not able to use your microphone, but you are able to submit questions that we'll answer to in the course of the meeting through the Q&A function. And please be aware that this meeting is being recorded. So by staying on in the meeting, by participating, you're consenting to us to record this meeting. We'll continue in about a minute or so. Okay, we're about 3 minutes in, so I think we can get going. Dear supply chain practitioners and participants, welcome to this joint Sophus and Tech4Best webinar. My name is Evrim Ivinch, and I lead the sales and marketing functions for Sophus and EMEA. Joining me is Christophe Philippard, co-founder of Tech4Best. Welcome, Christophe.
Hi, everyone.
And Christoph and myself are supported by two supply chain executives from industry who will kindly share their first-hand experiences on the topics we will be covering today. Joachim Servan-Ton-Heymans is a senior leader in integrated business planning and supply chain excellence. He brings over 20 years of global experience in complex regulated industries, including food and pharma production. Joachim is known for breaking down silos, optimizing costs, enhancing cross-functional collaboration, and improving service levels. He's passionate about innovation, mentoring talent, and enabling organizations to build capabilities and create long-term value. Welcome, Joachim.
Thank you, Raymond. Hi, everyone. Welcome.
Our other speaker, Tsu Rzolonyatovo, is an innovative international executive with more than 19 years of experience in supply chain, logistics, and procurement. He's known in the life science industry for driving operational excellence across global networks, transforming systems, processes, and teams, and breaking down silos to enable supply chain strategy with business outcomes. Welcome, Tsu.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone.
Today, we will discuss why supply chain planning software, in spite of all good intentions, typically fail in breaking down functional silos, and as a result, seldom succeed in improving supply chain performance. We will begin with a quick introduction of our two companies, Sophus and Tech4Best. Thereafter, we will dive straight into our main topic and analyze the reasons for planning systems failing to improve supply planning performance, and how optimization technology can be used to address this. Particularly, we will focus on the importance of an end-to-end view of the supply chain, analytical capabilities required, and the ability to plan scenarios. Then we will touch on how optimization technology is actually used to augment planning processes, and talk about the organizational requirements to successfully employ optimization technology. We will close the webinar by summarizing how Sophus and Tech4Best can help you augment your planning processes and capture significant value. Sophus is a young company founded 5 years ago and has taken up the cause of making prescriptive end-to-end supply chain decision support affordable for everyone. We pride ourselves on providing the most advanced, complete, and easy-to-use supply chain decision support offering in the market.
Thank you, Evrim, and a few words about Tech4Best now. So Rémi Lequette and I have co-founded Tech4Best, bringing over 60 cumulative years of experience in the supply chain software industry. And during all those years, what we have observed is that there are three key ingredients that are barely present to define, measure, and protect digital programs, leading to over 85% of undelivered or even destroyed value by technology. First, due to a lack of focus, because it requires a high level of expertise to understand all the subtleties of supply chain design, demand-driven planning, and tailored optimization. Second, there is a lack of method to set solid program foundations, provide insurance during its lifetime, and permanently audit fit adoption and value created. Eventually, and that's the third point, we observed a growing need for orchestration of systems integrators, data providers, SaaS vendors like Sophus, or senior advisors. To that last point, we have created a community of more than 30 independent senior advisors who bring their experience, skills, and talents to our domains of expertise. Sue and Joachim, who are honoring us with their presence in that webinar today, are two brilliant representatives of the CIA, the community of independent advisors.
Thank you, Christophe. Let's start with our topic, and I want to lead with an analogy. Every Formula One car has certain specifics. Its chassis, engine, gearbox, approximate weight are given, predetermined. But also, for every F1 car, there are dozens of settings that are modified specifically for each race. These settings are chosen according to the characteristics of the car, but also based on the external factors that define what each race will be like, such as the track and surface characteristics, the weather conditions during the race, and the pit stop strategy the racing team plans to execute. Naturally, the settings are not only adjusted individually for each race, but have to be aligned with each other. The suspension settings need to match the tires and the tire pressure being used. The car height must also be adjusted accordingly, etc. And all of this, I presume, makes sense to you, doesn't it? And yet, planning software disobey this logic. First, traditional supply planning processes are built to support stepwise tasks. This approach creates individual successive decisions which culminate in a plan that lacks an end-to-end view of the supply chain. In other words, we're adjusting our suspension without regarding our choice of tires. And not surprisingly, the plans don't perform very well. And planning software are required because they connect process steps across various company functions, and they simplify and automate the generation of transactional documents required to execute the work in the physical supply chain. But they do not lead to the elimination of stepwise disconnected decision-making, and thus do not eliminate functional silos. Second, if at all, the calibration of a supply planning software happens at the time of its implementation. If the many parameters being used in every process step were to fluctuate only within certain boundaries, a once well-calibrated planning system may still provide acceptable results over time. These would be the ideal circumstances in which planning systems would deliver strong results. Or, in other words, the layout of the track, the condition of the tarmac, and the weather stay the same for every single race. That is not the world that we live in, however. From trade policies to price fluctuations, supply route disruptions, sourcing shortages, new scientific insights to technological changes, today many parameters influencing our supply plans are fluctuating more dramatically and faster than ever. And with the parameters fluctuating significantly, our supply planning processes quickly deteriorate in performance. And even if the business circumstances were not changing as fast as they are, the analytical capabilities of typical planning systems themselves would fall short in providing optimal supply plans. The capabilities required for optimal planning can be categorized into two buckets. Those questions that planning systems can answer, they typically do so in a sequential fashion, as mentioned before. We discussed, however, that the answers to the questions are interdependent. They influence each other. This leads to assumptions and parameter settings that are not aligned with each other, as these interdependencies across an end-to-end supply chain are being disregarded in the process. On top, there are some questions that planning systems are simply not capable of answering, because they're not flexible enough to incorporate data that does not exist in operational systems yet, because they do not provide adequate scenario analysis capabilities, which Christophe is going to talk about in a second, and because they do not understand certain concepts that require consideration to provide a good answer, like determining a mathematically feasible solution, considering costs, and under the constraints of lead times and various types of capacities. Such prescriptive feasible solutions with an end-to-end view, and as a result, aligned parameters are provided by optimization models.
You're right, Evrim. For planning software vendors, scenario planning is the icing on the cake of on their technological stack. And in times of increasing vulcanization that you have just described, Evrim, scenario planning is an indispensable must-have to anticipate uncertainty and stress test your supply chain simultaneously rather than sequentially, as you call. Also to understand where to place the cursor between cost, service, and capacity in relation to increased risk. With scenario planning, you can activate pre-built playbooks that bring you extra agility. In preparation of this playbook, you can anticipate the alignment of stakeholders in finance and operation to agree on a plan, specifically if a scenario materialized. Ultimately, scenario planning is a valuable asset for bridging specific gaps between strategy and execution, particularly when resilience cannot be achieved without significant changes to product design or operational assets. Next slide, please, Evrim. So that's where you need a solid foundation for managing scenario. And it starts with the building of different baseline scenarios that will correspond to different futures that are not in your control. From each of those different baselines, you can start looking at actions under your control to evaluate the interest of different design decisions. And a relevant scenario framework must enable you to easily manage a wide combination of baseline scenarios and target scenarios.
Thank you, Christophe. So the solution to the problem we're advocating is a frequent reparameterization of supply planning systems to adjust the assumptions made to the outside world, further strengthened with the use of prescriptive scenario analysis. The right technology to calculate these parameters are supply chain optimization models. In practice, this means that every business question that arises is answered with a specific analysis that has the precise scope and detail to answer the question adequately. Over time, this leads to a library of optimization models that are reused at different frequencies, spanning business questions in all areas of the supply chain, from sourcing to outbound distribution. Each analysis is supplied with data from various systems, which typically go through a transformational process to be cleansed, harmonized, and completed for use in optimization models. Once an analysis is completed, the output data is typically fed back to other systems like ERP or APS. This approach creates a powerful analytical layer above the systems you currently use. With our optimization technology, we augment the job your planning system does, we do not replace it, because both your APS and your ERP are still required for your transaction level processes. So Joachim, would you kindly share your first-hand experiences from your past on the topics that we've been discussing?
Thank you, Evrim. I will jump in. So I'd like to build upon elements you mentioned, interdependencies of topics, and also the frequent update of prioritization. In my experience, and I've seen this working and sometimes not working, but indeed, planning system, they often lack of bring value. But if you do the right thing with predictive analytics, you can get value. But the key challenge I've observed of this hard time to make value, I can give two examples. One is about data integration or integration across people and data, and the lack of single source. So it's like, have you ever felt maybe collecting data or seeing your analyst or team collecting data and struggling to get that done, and then you realize what was planned on paper to answer this key question for the business or answer this what if scenario that you need for the next month, let's say SNOP or IBP process cycle, takes more time than what was supposed to be on paper. So with those two challenges I mentioned, I would like to call first the integration. It's close to my heart because I believe if you bring integration of data through those softwares, thanks to the right people, it will bring the right insights. And however, those data points are coming from multiple hands, multiple department functions. I'm sure you observe this, and sometimes it even comes from people's head. Therefore, it's hard, but therefore, it's the key side of the prize to really to get this integration happening, make sure that you can take the data points from multiple sources, but it could feel like having different Lego blocks that are different shape, size, and form. So it's hard to assemble them. So now, if you're an analyst, this is what you will observe. Bring those Lego blocks together. As a decision maker, I would recommend not to push too hard for the big transformation using those softwares. So as an example, if you want to free up working capital, a typical topic in supply chain management, and you want to do that also to improve service level, so you would do inventory optimization to have the right balance. So therefore, don't start to do the full end-to-end optimization. Naturally, I've observed and I recommend always to do a step-by-step approach, or even better if you think about demand-driven organization, maybe you start downstream, close to your customers or consumers, look at your distribution centers, and therefore your data collection and integration of this data is simpler. And then you expand if you want to do something more sophisticated, like multiple echelon inventory optimization at full scale. The optimization full scale is very legitimate, but step by step is more pragmatic to start with. And then as you go, you deliver value and you increment at scale. The second example is about lack of signal source. So as you get this data points pulled in your prescriptive analytics scenario analysis tools, therefore, you will see that you will need to have repetitive mechanics. And for that, I would call out typical method. It's a bit technical, but extract, transform, and load softwares are very well established out there to really have this capability of, again, as I said, extract, transform, and load the data and make the right integration, frequent update of parameters and data points. As an example, again, if you want to do capacity planning into your often into your supply review of your SNOP process or IBP process, you may have questions about what's my future capacity requirements based on new demand or market shift, and therefore those tools will help to inform through frequent update those critical decisions to eventually decide on capex. So in summary, for this first example, so integration is key with data across the functions and departments. It's hard for sure, but when you get there, use frequent update through extract, transform, and load. Over to you, Sue.
Thank you, Joachim, and I wholeheartedly agree with you. One of the key challenges you highlighted here to operate holistic planning system is indeed to extract, transform, and load unstructured data, and then to be able to integrate this data not only accurately, but also seamlessly and timely into one source of data, let's say one data lake. That's really something challenging. Here I'd like to make an addition. It's tempting to have this trap of chasing visibility without actionability as well. And to continue the analogy of the race car, visibility without actionability is like having a race car with the best sensors, the best cameras, but driving nowhere. Like you do, and like most of the people in here, it's about pursuing relevant data visibility of the end-to-end supply chain with the ultimate objective to actually enable holistic scenario planning and execution. So the example I'd like to take is supply chain network design, for example. So The way I define it is, supply chain network design would be building and modeling digital models of the supply chain, and then using these models to improve the performance and the design of the supply chain processes and the supply chain networks. So, like Christophe mentioned in the scenario framework, we can look at it as a simple 3-step approach. It's one, visualizing the as-is supply chain in a digital twin. 2, modeling and analyzing the alternate to-be scenarios and strategies. And then 3, making a recommendation, endorsing the supply chain optimizations, decisions, and implementations. And in my opinion, scenario planning, in the scenario planning, the supply chain network design is very important, is critical actually, because statistically, 80% of the supply chain value is trapped in the upstream decisions of the network design. So, for example, if you take distribution models, right? You ask yourself, do I distribute direct to customers or via distributors? In terms of warehousing footprints, where to place distribution centers to meet the demand and stay competitive. In terms of manufacturing footprint, what production capacity and technology do I put at each plant or each contract manufacturer? Make or buy decision on strategic procurements. Joachim mentioned the inventory levels and stock policies. Where do I hold my inventory to meet services targets while minimizing working capital? So from experience, I'm sure you believe the same. These questions are not answered straight away. And the existing planning systems, despite the claim of the near real-time scenario planning, still have significant limits. And those limits are, like we mentioned before, sequenced and silo decision-making, and by design, some rigidity in the configuration. So to illustrate how it may affect network design scenario, let's consider what a good decision is. To me, a good decision is, in essence, a balanced decision between all the end-to-end business imperatives. So obviously the quality, the service, the cost/capital, but also agility, resilience and risk, and sustainability. Unfortunately, when you look at the planning systems today, they are designed for decisions in silo and in sequence, and there is an over-reliance on quantitative data at the expense of qualitative inputs. So let me share that with you. A few years ago, we ran an international freight network optimization, right? We reviewed our modes of transportation, shipping routes, port of entries and exits, etc. All the transportation freight data, the supply and the demand data, warehouse costs, etc., they were all in good shape, well integrated to our network design tool. But guess what's not? Well, global trade constraints, for example, right? Take tariffs, preferential origins, trade agreements, non-tariff barriers to trade. We had a significant difficulty to plug that information. And although we had, a global trade compliance model as part of the ERP available at the time, the planning system could not compute and link the qualitative constraints with the quantitative assumptions. So to incorporate trade compliance constraints, we had first to build quantitative scenarios and then perform a qualitative sensitivity analysis. But of course, it was in sequence and in silo. So in other words, the lack of holistic decision parameters in the planning systems was compensated by people collaboration on one front and agile processes on the other front. So the people and the processes were constrained to adapt to the systems, while in my opinion, it actually should be the other way around. We should have the systems flexible enough to adapt to the processes and to the people. So I'm sure you've gone through that, but despite this, I think it doesn't prevent supply chain leaders today to deliver a successful transformation journey. That's what my team and I did, like yours, tackling and answering the strategic and recurring optimization questions, saving logistics costs, optimizing service levels, reducing CO2 emissions, consolidating warehouse footprints, or maintaining quality and compliance. And with that, we still enable balanced network design decisions, right? But and I stress on that we had to compensate the system's limits with process agility and with people collaboration. And I really like your analogy, Evrim. You know, back to your example of the race car. It's like the latest movie F1. You know, the movie where they have a race car which is suboptimal. So they bring Brad Pitt to enhance teamwork, to challenge the car mechanics, and eventually the team, the processes, and the car gets better, and they save the day. So Evrim, it looks like we have the same movie taste. So I hand it over to you now.
Thank you. Unfortunately, not every company can afford to hire a Brad Pitt. That's, I think, the challenge there. Since we're talking about people, now let us look at an overview of how the optimization function is typically best embedded into a supply chain organization to ensure an end-to-end alignment of the supply chain. The function should have a manager who not only manages the team, but also liaises with senior management to define and prioritize the use cases for which optimization models will be employed. The details for each use case are then aligned with the respective subject matter experts in the respective functions of the company. You may notice that this arrow here is thicker than the other, because this is an important process and a key part of the value being generated by optimization technology indirectly. Its use forces the modeling team to drive the alignment on views and assumptions across various functions of the organization, and as you can see, not only limited to supply chain functions. It also enhances the understanding across these functions of the end-to-end view on the supply chain with one standardized and quantified approach. The persons in the optimization team responsible for data liaise with IT to ensure that data exchange procedures are established between the Sophus platform and the other systems of the company, in many cases exchanging data both ways. That same data function also liaises with the respective controlling functions regarding findings in the data. This is the second thicker arrow, as it is a topic that harbors another improvement potential in most companies. Because organizations often tend to transfer all responsibility regarding data to their IT departments, who typically understand their systems but are not equipped with the required process knowledge to be able to evaluate the data that they see in the systems. The results generated by the optimization analyses are shared directly with senior management if they relate to strategic decisions. In such cases, Microsoft Office products may be the medium of choice for transferring the information at the outputs. If optimization analyses are conducted for tactical purposes, like supporting planning processes, they are transferred and shared with the supply chain planners. In that case, the data may be pushed back into planning systems automatically or shared via intermediary means such as data lakes or databases. The intent is for the optimization function to ideally serve the entire supply chain organization, from procurement all the way to outbound distribution. For this purpose, the team should not be assigned to a specific supply chain function, like logistics or manufacturing, but either directly to the supply chain leadership or to a team that is agnostic to the functional silos, such as supply chain planning. Now let's have a closer look at what the ideal profile for each of these three roles within a supply chain modeling team should look like. We're going to focus on 5 knowledge areas: overall understanding of supply chain, skills in analyzing and manipulating data, programming skills and mathematical acumen, understanding of finance, specifically supply chain finance, and project management and communication skills. A solid understanding of the end-to-end supply chain of your organization is most important with the manager role and least important for the data analyst role. Exactly the opposite is true for data skills, as the manager will rather oversee modeling and data processing efforts than conduct the work him or herself. With the Sophus platform, a packaged and code-free solution, no programming or math skills are required. Strategic and tactical supply chain initiatives often have the nature of small projects and include further detailed financial analyses outside of the supply chain optimization model. As the sparring partner of company management, an understanding of finance concepts is therefore helpful for the manager role. Due to the same reason, it is imperative that the team manager understands how to effectively manage a multidisciplinary project in matrix organizations and also possesses excellent communication skills. Again, back to you, Joachim and Tsu. Could you please share some of your experiences with regards to how these exercises, these projects actually operate within existing supply chain organizations?
Thank you, Rima. I will start, and I would like to build upon what you said before. So I will bring two examples, two ingredients of successfully embedding supply chain design, modeling work, and perspective analytics into an organization existing. And the other theme is also to piggyback on what you said, the matrix organization. So beyond the case for change, so having a clear why, so why you do this, okay, it is, let's say it's granted, but beyond that, not to minimize it, it's super important to clarify the benefits you're gonna get through this. So the why. Some of the key difficulties I've observed in my career in multi-billion companies, where you've got different department, different function. You've seen the visual before from Evrim about the different chevrons, the different areas. So it's complex world. You know, plan, source, make, deliver, marketing, sales, finance, logistics, trucking operations. So you name it. So therefore, you're going to have to really get those different people on board, and I call that out because it's important to get them on board. Not everyone will have a say, but at least depending on your question you want to answer, you're going to have to identify quickly who is key into this this analysis. And therefore, when you have identified this, I believe it's super important that you bring those brains, because those will be questions on solving complex problems, or it's going to be complex matters. And to me, complexity is often solved through collective intelligence. So more brain, more chance of success. That's my takeaway for you. Therefore, bring this collective intelligence group of people. And the good news, if I think about the one of the key area that you will touch, not just volume, or also not just network prediction, you also touch financial prediction. So those systems and tool, prescriptive analytics, touch money, and finance speaks money too. So key stakeholder to call this out. Also with commercial stakeholders too. So the key point is about having people viewpoints embedded into your initiative. After you've got the right person, the right talent to do to drive the activities, surround you by the key people, the key sponsors, the key functional leaders, and review with them, of course, the scope, what you want to achieve, and then bring them on board to certain critical milestone, like it was called out before by Tsu, the baseline as an example. And so second point, I would call out the successful way of embedding this will come through rapid decision. So people will expect very quickly, and I've observed expectation will be set, and therefore you have to respond to the expectation in a quick way. So, but the flip side, with many stakeholders, you're going to have more questions. So that's the flip side of it. So more questions, and people expect rapid analysis, rapid viewpoint to make a decision. So therefore, my tip would be to prioritize those key questions from those different stakeholders. As you peel off the onion of your why you do this, you will have different sub scenarios, and therefore my tool I would recommend, it's a typical 2x2 matrix. So you can think about the value creation or the benefit versus the effort. You can also think about in this concept of 2x2 about the impact versus the accessibility of doing this in terms of effort as well. And therefore, you bring the people again into this dynamic to align upon what is important urgent now. Of course, start with quick win. It's a famous say, but it still works to start with quick wins, deliver quickly value to those stakeholders, and then scale up and continue. So this is my recommendation, and key findings about bring more people on the table will help to solve complex problems, to bring those assumptions that Sue mentioned before that are beyond the data points you're going to collect, and also have alignment and agreement through the journey of those initiatives. But be fast, be quick, start small and scale up. So this is my experience with that, and handing over to you too.
Yeah, thanks, Joachim. And I think I will echo what you said. So first of all, the stakeholder engagement, the prioritizations are indeed key success factors, especially when breaking silos is the name of the game for end-to-end optimization. And I'd like to probably add governance, as another key success factor. And my friend Vincent here in the call would probably love it. A good governance process is like an ecosystem that allows every potential to be expressed fully. Right? I said earlier that systems have their limits, and that to compensate for these limits, we needed process agility and people involvement. But how do we smoothly go through, the many gates of optimization and transformation? Going from data gathering to scenario generation, solution endorsement, solution implementation, benefit accounting, etc. Right? All along those steps, there are key questions like who do you involve? What process do you run? At which point do you run this process? This is what a good governance answers. This is the ecosystem that surrounds the process. And I think, like Evrim said earlier, the optimization team plays a critical role in truly governing and orchestrating the end-to-end optimizations to be at the service of the entire supply chain organization. And while this is definitely a good vision to aim for, my experience is also that end-to-end coverage often starts with one silo, and then it expands through other silos until we can cover the end-to-end. I'll probably bring a real case example. I'd like to share a transformation journey here that earned my team an award that recognizes companies across all industries. That award was for demonstrating transformational values, vision, and success along the end-to-end supply chain. So we were obviously proud of the award, but this is only for us the tip of the iceberg. What's really important, what we are prouder of, is the 5-year transformation journey that led us from creating an optimization team from scratch, delivering value in the logistics area, and then quickly expanding to other functions like procurement, planning, and manufacturing. And along the journey, there were many takeaways, and I'd like to share a few with you. So the first one, the first takeaway I want to share is that our leadership really agreed to establish a dedicated global transformation leadership role. In the global logistic organization, I was given the resources and the empowerment to hire and develop an in-house network design team. I was also empowered to build a strategic transformation roadmap attached to a digital technology roadmap. And of course, there was something in exchange. I was also empowered to deliver strategic value through optimization. The second takeaway, it's like I said, we started optimization in our logistics silo. We redesigned commercial warehousing and distribution models in 80+ domestic markets worldwide. And it was opportunistic. It was a good timing because the company was going through a merger and acquisition. And we seized that opportunity to identify, endorse, and fully implement optimizations, all that within the first 18 months that followed the announcement of the merger. So like you said, Joachim, you could call that our early wins. And I think that terms never age. It's going to stay, right? The third takeaway is that we also knew that success would attract success. And then we anticipated that in our roadmap by progressively expanding to other areas of the supply chain. And the expansion, brought us through international logistics optimization, multi-echelon inventory planning optimization, manufacturing footprint optimization, and production make or buy decisions. And I think here we could talk about mid, long-term wins, and those wins were only possible because we had similar ingredients, like you said, Joachim. So collective leadership all across the company and the stakeholders, solid understanding of the end-to-end value chain and not just supply chain, and also a reputation for delivering tangible value, and that across the strategy, but also the tactical and the operational levels and layers of the company. So really to wrap up with that example, the critical aspects of embedding the modeling into the supply chain organizations are, one, to have a dedicated modeling and optimization team. Two, to first deliver value and return on investment, because even if we start in a silo at the beginning, nobody will sign a blank check, right? So delivering value from the get-go is really important, even if it's in silo. And then three, progressively expand until the end-to-end supply chain is covered, so that we can maximize the holistic collaboration of the organization and also keep delivering value. So I think, Christophe, you have helped company on similar journeys with Tech4Best and Sophus, so I'll hand it over to you for the next slides.
Thank you, Tsu and Evrim and Joachim as well for all those great tips and return on experience on how to do it. But I'm sure there are some editors in the webinar that still ask themselves why we should care about complementing their planning systems with design capabilities. Well, the short answer is that the value that scenario planning provides to supply chain is substantial. Companies typically obtain a 3-digit return on investment and recoup their investment through an improvement in their bottom line within months and not years. In the rightmost box, you can see the typical savings interval from several supply chain cost type when you know how to break down the silos created by supply chain planning systems. So next slide, please, Evrim. But then, and that's the question of should we need Brad Pitt or not, why should you select Tech4Best and Sophus to support you on that journey? Replacing an existing planning system seldom provides tangible additional value. Therefore, what Tech4Best and Sophus propose is an approach to augment your decision-making capability precisely where it is most urgently needed. Tech4Best, supported by the CIA, the community of independent advisors, audits your existing supply chain, your business goals, and your analytical capabilities, so you get a prioritized list of what to call use cases, where prospective optimization analysis will be employed. Based on those use cases, Tech4Best and Sophus work with you to define the steps needed to prepare your organization from the people, data, and process perspectives. This will enable you to quickly and successfully internalize supply chain modeling capabilities. Ultimately, and this is going to be my next slide, Evrim, our ambition is to help you make the best out of technology by yourselves. So if you want to leverage technology to gain agility and do more with less in your supply chain, then let's start a project with Sophus and Tech4Best with a clear path for autonomy, optimal investment, and limited risks.
Thank you, Christophe. Joachim and Tsu, maybe we'll just change plans slightly because there was a question that Vincent had shared that I would just pass on to you, gentlemen, maybe to answer. He's wrote and he asked, in a context of strong competition, resource shortages, rising taxes, and increasing uncertainty, what are the most effective ways to support companies in navigating these challenges?
So maybe I make a start and then please feel free to build in. So, I mean, it feels like it's nowadays. Competition, or the famous say, it's a very uncertain world, shortage. I can even think about resource and physical resource or raw materials in some industries. So I believe that prescriptive analytics, because that's the topic today, it's important to really find path of options. For sure, if resource is very scarce, I think about an example in food industry where we had resource scarcity in some areas of the world, and we had to think about multiple sourcing options. So with those prescriptive analytics, you can have an option to source from another route, let's say, on the sourcing side, supplier side. At least you can quickly model your impact on your cost. In that case, this impact in our cost was on transportation because it was longer distance sourcing. So bottom line, it gives you visibility of your different options. Of course, maybe sometimes it's easy, not rocket science to find in this scarce situation option, but I would be thinking about the option it gives to you. It gives you a path to reflect and gives alternatives. That would be a first perspectives I wanted to share.
No, I appreciate it as well, Joachim. And maybe to complement what you said, I would go for one element, which is basically how to generate choice, for your organization, right? So when you take a technology optimization tool, you need visibility to operate that tool, and then you provide at the same time further visibility. With that visibility, you get the power to break silos, to go beyond the individual assumptions and the narrow objectives. And if you do that in a holistic way, meaning that you're not just targeting the traditional metrics of quality, service, cost, capital, but the element that you're referring here, resource shortages, rising taxes or trade compliance, increasing uncertainty, and you model that as part of your simulation and optimizational tool, you can actually address those often overlooked metrics. So we had discussed earlier about agility and the need for a speedy decision, the need for going through resilience and risks, and I believe that an example which is also an often overlooked metric is around sustainability, right? So often we want to do sustainability for sustainability, while I believe we can leverage already operational excellence to design a more sustainable supply chain, right? And what sustainability is about is actually about balancing those metrics. I really like, I was at a conference a few weeks ago. There was the head of Johnson & Johnson EMEA Logistics, and he said it best, I think, lean is green. So that ability to utilize the lean concepts in order to make decisions would actually ensure that we have a fair through the navigating of the challenges we see in the world today.
Thank you, Tsu. Vincent also thanked you for your elaborate responses. We are pretty much on the clock. If there are no other questions, which I believe there aren't, thank you everyone for participating. Thank you to Joachim for honoring us with your presence. Thank you, Christophe, for your inputs. And we will be wrapping this webinar up now.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good rest of the day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.